May I take this a little further? I really appreciated that interaction. I have a challenging situation with my son. We were very close growing up, and he is living in a very affluent society right now. He's 23, and I thought the issue was more with this gentleman. He talked about feeling excluded. So there's that.
But
piece.
you see that feeling of being excluded, always, you think you're being left out of that party over there. That's not what it is. You're leaving yourself out of your own party. In other words, the only thing that ever makes you feel like a victim or feel vulnerable or feel misunderstood or feel not appreciated or feel not brought into it is you're not allowing yourself alignment with who you really are. When you're in alignment with who you really are, you're invincible, you're hardy, you're the one that's saving the bear then, you see. When you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, then you are in alignment with all of the power of the universe. And so no one can exclude you from anything, but you can choose thoughts that cause you to exclude yourself from your stream or from your power. Nobody can leave you out.
Can I give you an example? Because I know he couldn't think of one, so there was one. Here would be an example.
Oh, examples popped up all over the room. You think we were talking about them? We were talking about you.
So we have this mommy-son night where we're going out to dinner, and he walks in front of me. It's sort of a passive-aggressive, walks in front of me and ignores me. And I don't actually know how to handle it. I don't know whether to point out, gee, can we walk together?
Well, what's a mommy-son night? That is the most disturbing thing we have ever heard. That's where someone in your society says that we will force an unnatural situation in order to foster better relations between people. Do you think he wanted to be there?
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
I didn't invite him. He invited me to do this.
Well, all that peer pressure. In other words, somebody set up this thing that we have to go to. When they call it a mother and son party, you sort of have to take your mother. Was that yesterday or many years ago?
No, a couple months ago.
So tell us about it.
Well, I just did. I mean, it felt contrived. And I only got it through the contrast of, ooh, that didn't feel good afterwards. So now I have to kind of re-identify what is our relationship.
Well, we think it is wonderful when things like that help you to see things from a broader perspective, because what your relationship is this. You gave birth to him, now leave him alone. You were the avenue through which he came forth into physical experience. And you are an example, as is everyone else on the planet, of someone who's in alignment or not. But really, this business of parenting, most parents really have this distorted point of view that it's my job to think everything out for you and to sort it all out and to give you the right answer to all the questions. And what's really interesting is you can't have lived all the life that is necessary to live to give all the answers to the questions that your children are going to come up with, because your life is different and the same questions are not there. And so when you get it, that it's not your job, that law of attraction will respond, and that your child has an inner being who is always aware and always calling, and that as a parent or a mentor or as anyone who cares about anyone, even if it's a stranger, that your work is always the same. It's to do your best as you can do to stay in alignment with who you are, so that you can teach through the clarity of your example the joy of being in alignment. In other words, the best that you can do for anybody that you care about is to show them how to close their own gap. And you can't show them how to close their own gap by you being involved in their issues. You can only show them how to close their own gap by being involved in your issues and tending to your own gap. So, for example, when you don't feel good, don't smile and pretend that you do feel good. Say, I feel bad. I've got myself all out of whack. I've been beating the drum of what I don't want, when clearly what I want is clear over here. I have to find some way of closing my gap. Now let's see if I can find some positive aspects. Let's see if I can at least stop pointing in the wrong direction. Let's see if the stream will carry me. Oh yeah, I'm feeling better now. In other words, demonstrate your awareness that there is a broader part of you that is calling you, and demonstrate your awareness that you can deliberately get into alignment and then leave them to their own experience, because we promise you, they do not want to feel bad. Your children don't want to feel bad, and know in most cases much better than their parents how to keep themselves feeling good. But parents who have lived longer and therefore are more disconnected than their children still believe that they must sort out all of the conditions and come to the rightnesses and the wrongnesses of the world. In other words, parents are, for the most part, still very much trying to control conditions where the youngsters are more intuitively closing their own vibrational gap. That's the war that is going on predominantly between parents and children. Parents think that they got here first and therefore they know more, and children know that they got here later, therefore they've forgotten less. And so what could be better than a parent who is now remembering and a child who hasn't forgotten? In other words, isn't that wonderful when you come together and you all come to the same conclusion? I care about how I feel, and I can do something about how I feel. And your daughter or government or country or issue or circumstance or event, you do not have to change in order for me to feel better. In fact, I've given myself freedom in the only way freedom can come. I've given myself the freedom of alignment because my alignment is exclusive of anything that you are doing. That's the only place you'll ever get freedom. If your happiness depends upon what anyone else does, you're in deep doo-doo. Because you can't align your perspective. And so people spend lifetimes, look at the centuries of war that goes on in regions around the world as you are determined to convince others that your idea is the right one. They are so scrambled they can't even figure out what they want now. Most people are so much more aware of what they don't want, they can't get into alignment with who they are. And in their pain at not being in alignment, they're sure that it's somebody else's fault. It is the truest picture of bondage to separate yourself from source and then think somebody else has done it and ask them to do something to get you back in alignment when they don't have the power to do it. And that's what these kids are trying to tell you. Parent, mother, I love you so much. Dad, I love you so much. But I can't do it your way because you're outside of my guidance system. I can't consider everything that you're saying and close my gap. You got a different set of rules going on. Can you imagine if Magellan, the navigational system in one of Jerry Nestor's vehicles, tried to be really helpful and overlaid 10 maps, 10 different maps of 10 different people and where they are and 10 different destinations, and said, here, this may help. It would just cause absolute chaos, because the only thing that matters is where I am in relationship to where I want to be, and my emotion is guiding me there. But if I have to factor in what mom did when she was my age and what whoever set up the stupid mother-daughter party thinks about it all, and what the religion thinks about it, not this one, not only this one, but that one and 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 that one. You just drive yourselves out of your minds by trying to factor in what everybody thinks about something that hasn't got anything to do with them, while you distract yourself from everything that does have to do with you, you see. So next time your son invites you someplace, say, do you really want to go? Is this something you want to do, or is this something that somebody else thinks is a good idea for us to do? And having had that experience, now you know that, you see. Don't you? Isn't it just so interesting to do something because somebody else wants you to do it, and then you get in the middle of it and you just hate it. Now you have to keep pretending that you don't hate it because you don't want to hurt their feelings, but you're not lined up, and so you're not having a good time, which makes you lousy company. And then they're not having a good time, and then they feel bad for inviting you because they're not having a good time either. And then you say, well, we have done our responsible thing. We did something that somebody else wanted us to do in order to prove something that they needed to prove, and all we ended up with proving was that we hated being here. And then we say, well, just keep paddling upstream and giving each other trophies about how many mother, son, daughter, or mother and son dinners you can endure. And we say, our idea of going with the flow is saying, someone invites you to something, and your first response to it will give you a reading on whether you really want to go or not. And if you will do nothing out of obligation and responsibility, and everything because you can feel that your inner being is calling you toward it, you will never again be in a situation where you will be eliciting from someone something less than who they really are. You must be selfish. You must be selfish enough to care how you feel, to be of a whit of value to anyone else. So if you do something out of obligation and you don't feel good about doing, you've helped no one. If you do something out of responsibility, even though you don't want to do it, you've helped no one. People say, well, Abraham, if none of us did anything that we don't want to do, the first thing that happened would no one would go to work. And then what? And we say, you'd figure out another way. You'd figure out another way. You'd be a healthier society on the day that you stopped doing anything that didn't feel good when you do it. And eventually, you'd start to sort things out. Now, humans always want to take it to the very extreme. In other words, we're not encouraging you from your place of greatest disconnection to stop doing the things that you've been doing that have been making your life work to a certain extent. It would get a bit chaotic at first. But we're saying if you can start lining up energy, worrying about closing the gap, giving your attention to closing the gap, coming into alignment with who you are, so that your inspiration is the basis for your action, what you would begin to notice is all of the things that you are not taking pleasure from doing would move out of your life experience. If you can be one who does only that which makes you feel good. So now, how would, if we'd met you on the first day of your experience, this would all be easier. If we were visiting with all of your children, we would be having a raucous good time right now. Because they are closer to remembering this than most of you who have managed to separate yourself from who you are for a while. But here is the basis of it. If we were standing in your physical shoes from where you are right now, most of you not really in the place where you can just only do what feels good to you. Here's what we would do. We would do only those things that we really believe that we need to do in order to keep life moving along the way it is. And we would do everything else that we really want to do that we could cram into a day. In other words, we'd tell everyone, I'm going to do as much as I can do that I really want to do, and a handful of things that I got to do. But I'm really leaning toward doing what I want to do. And then every segment of every day, we would say, I'm free to do as I please. I'm free to do as I please. I'm free to do what pleases me. I'm free to do what pleases me. And before you know it, you'll begin saying, what I do pleases me. When you say, I'm free to do what pleases me, before you know it, what you're doing pleases you, because you're coming into alignment. And when you're in alignment, no matter what you do, it's fun.